I would now like to formally begin today's conference and introduce Carla Harris.
Thank you, Colin. And welcome, everyone, and thank you so much for joining the National Women's Business Council public meeting, our second quarter meeting. Our topic for this meeting will be innovative strategies to increase women's access to capital in today's new market environment, and I could not be more excited about this topic. I'm thrilled to be joined by my fellow National Women's Business Council members. I know that a few of us are participating in the WeBank annual conference, which I understand is just sensational with over 3,000 attendees, but the majority of us are on the call today, so I'll start with a quick roll call. If you are present, please respond present when you hear your name. Roz Alford. Okay, Tara Abraham. Kimberly Blackwell.
Jane Applegate, here.
Okay, thanks, Jane. Shelley Kapoor-Collins. Jamie Knack. Magdala Racine Silva.
Present.
Thank you. Laura Yamanaka.
Laura is dialing in right now. She just emailed.
Okay, and we may want to send out a quick email to some of the other members just to make sure that we're not having technical difficulties.
Will do.
Okay. With that, I want to welcome the other voice that you hear on the phone, Amanda Brown. I know that most of you know, but I am so pleased to reiterate and welcome Amanda to the role of Executive Director for the National Women's Business Council. She is just terrific, has hit the ground running. She has a wealth of experience in forging partnerships, executing grassroots campaigns, advising key influencers in the nation's capital, and building brand awareness. So we could not be more excited about her time with us. Most recently, she was National Political Director for Rock the Vote, has been named Forbes 2014 30 Under 30, and has previously served as an advisor for strategic planning to the U.S. Department of Energy Secretary Stephen Chu. And we are excited about what we will be doing together for the National Women's Business Council. And with that, let me turn it over to Amanda.
Thank you, Carla. I am so thrilled to be on board and really excited about my first public meeting. This was great. I am an organizer at heart and very passionate about this issue. This is one that's actually personal to me also. My mom is a woman entrepreneur, and I have seen her go through the struggle and come out on the other end. And so I definitely want to do what I can to kind of contribute to this agenda, and I'm looking forward to being a part of this movement and working with all of you. I think what makes this opportunity so special is really the team. So outside, we have an amazing chair in Carla, so thank you again, Carla. We have a dynamic and that kind of expert crew of council members who are actually on the call. I was just informed they're unfortunately on the participant line right now, so cannot actually speak. So that is the technical difficulty. We will adjust that for next time. But they are thrilled and excited to be on as well. And I will say yay present for all of them. And then the rest of our team. So we have had some transition on this end. I am not the only new face on the team. We also have Erin Kelly, who has joined us as the Research and Policy Director, and she is a total rock star and is already kicking butt on all of the research that we are trying to churn out this year. So look out for a lot of amazing things on the horizon, and she will actually be giving the Research and Policy update later. So lots on that front. And then we are also welcoming a new council member, Teresa Nelson, who is joining us on behalf of ASTIA. So we are excited to have a new organization joining the council, which I will let Magdala share a little bit more about that. And then welcome to Teresa. And we have an amazing lineup. Like Carla said, this access to capital remains the greatest barrier for women entrepreneurs, and we wanted to do what we could to draw attention to that issue, but really focus this conversation on actionable items that all of the women entrepreneurs on this call could actually take so that they can get the funding that they need to their interest and go after it. So I don't want to take up too much time, so with that, I'm going to kick it back over to Carla.
Well, thank you so much, Amanda. And again, let me also welcome Teresa Nelson from ASTIA. We are very pleased to have you. And before I go on with my other comments, let me also thank our past members of the council who have fulfilled their commitments: Fran Pastori, AWBC, Gina Robinson-Billups of Moms in Business, Lisa Price of Carol's Daughter, and Leah Marquez-Peterson. We thank you so much again for your service to the National Women's Business Council, and we also want to give a special thanks to Erin Andrews, who's the head of the Women's Business Owners Office in the Small Business Administration. Erin did a yeoman's job in her capacity as interim Executive Director for the National Women's Business Council, and we cannot thank her enough for her time and service. She did an awesome job, not just only in the role, but also in having a successful handoff and transition to Amanda. So, again, publicly, Erin, we thank you for everything that you've done. I'm also really excited today by the number of participants joining us on this webinar. We had more than 300 RSVPs for this meeting, which I believe is a record attendance for the council. And we also have a stellar lineup of women ready to share insights and strategies on innovative ways to raise capital in today's new market environment. So get ready. As many of you know, and for those that are not as familiar with the National Women's Business Council, also known as NWBC, the NWBC is the government's only independent, nonpartisan voice for women entrepreneurs. The NWBC serves as a federal advisory council to the White House administration, Congress, and the SBA. It was established in 1988 through the passage of H.R. 5050, the Women's Business Ownership Act, which was a landmark piece of legislation that eliminated individual state laws that required women to have a male relative co-sign a business loan. That's just a little over 25 years ago when women were barred from opening a business on their own terms. Fast forward to 2014, women entrepreneurs have made leaps and bounds and are the fastest growing population in the small business community. The council is composed of 15 members. As you've heard from Amanda, these women are prominent, accomplished business owners and are leaders of prestigious women's business organizations and are known for their industry acumen and have much, much to contribute to the conversation around women's entrepreneurship. The NWBC advances women's entrepreneurship agenda through four main pillars. So when you hear the letters NWBC, think four main pillars: access to capital, access to markets, which is obviously deepening the conversation around procurement, job creation, access to jobs, which is really about scaling women-owned businesses, and data collection. And today's presentation, as we've said, will be all around our access to capital pillar. I'm excited to share some of the work that we are doing at NWBC to bring more attention to this issue, and Erin will dive a little deeper on that in just a few minutes. We're advocating for increased access to various types of capital for women-owned small businesses with the belief that increased resources to raise capital gives women a greater opportunity to scale and increase profitability and, frankly, activates the multiplier effect of job creation. We're focusing our efforts on identifying ways to increase access to greater amounts of capital available to women-owned and women-led businesses because we know from our research that while many women entrepreneurs start their business with personal savings and credit card loans, these sources of capital do not offer sustainable ways to grow businesses, and it doesn't position these positions these businesses for limited returns. In order to position women and their startups for growth, we need to bring other types of capital funding into the equation. Look out for some new research coming very soon that shows that women-owned firms exceed growth expectations of all other small businesses but still lack the access to capital. For example, on average, women received only 2% of total funding from outside equity compared to 18% for men. On average, men start their businesses with nearly twice as much capital as women, $135,000 versus $75,000. Among high-growth firms, men started their businesses with over twice as much capital as women. Think on average a little over $300,000 versus $150,000. And among the most successful firms, men started their businesses with 6 times as much capital as women. So we know that access to capital remains a barrier to entry for women entrepreneurs, and we've heard this as we've traveled throughout the country. We've heard it from members of the Group of 6, and this is something that we want to focus on and hopefully move the needle very quickly, which is why we convened today's call around some of the new opportunities that are available. We are in a dynamic time where innovation around capital raising might just be leveling the playing field for women entrepreneurs. Think crowdfunding, alternative lending, new venture, and new angel capital, as well as the opportunities that are now available given women's economic status and just leveraging your professional networks to raise capital. I just participated in a webinar last month hosted by Business Forward to talk about crowdfunding. So please do check our website if you'd like to get some of their information, which was very provocative and interesting around crowdfunding. We are excited by the increased focus on access to capital, and we were ecstatic to see the sole sourcing legislation gaining momentum on the Hill, as well as the issue of women's economic parity. Just last week, the NWBC put out a statement in support of the Women's Small Business Procurement Parity Act introduced in the Senate by Senators Shaheen, Cantwell, and Gillibrand. We know that economic stability isn't a women's issue, it's an economic issue, and there must be a continuation of innovative policies like the Women's Small Business Procurement Parity Act to support the rapidly growing population of women entrepreneurs who are leading our country in entrepreneurship. We stand with our membership organizations, the AWBC, WBENC, ASTIA, NALBO, WPO, and WIP in support of this legislative action. We are eagerly awaiting to see what the Senate Committee on Small Business and Entrepreneurship has in store, with the hearing happening at the end of next month, around July 23rd. So with that, I'd like to move on so that we have an opportunity to fully hear all of the committee reports and have a very, very provocative conversation with our panelists. So I will now turn the conversation over to my fellow council member, Magdala Silva, for an update from the G6.
Thank you, Madam Chair, Magdala Silva, and good morning, everyone, and it's a pleasure to welcome you all on today's call. Our role on the Council through this committee is to ensure the synergy and the coordination between the Council recommendations and the pulse of what is actually happening in the women's business community through our respective membership organizations. The group of six is affectionately known as the G6, and it references the representatives of the six women's business organizations that our chair alluded to: ASTIA, AWBC, NABO, WeBank, WIP, and the Women's Presidents Organization. There has been some G6 transition since our last meeting, so I want to quickly highlight that. Fan Pastore, who was representing AWBC, has rolled off the council, and we are very grateful to her contribution. Her replacement will be announced very soon, and she has tremendous shoes to fill. Gina Robinson-Billups, who was representing Moms in Business, also rolled off the council, and we want to thank Gina and Moms in Business for the amazing work that they do to advance women's entrepreneurship. We will be welcoming to the G6 ASTIA. ASTIA is a community of experts that's committed to helping women's full participation as entrepreneurs and leaders in high-growth businesses by fueling innovation and driving economic growth. And I would like to join Amanda and Carla in welcoming Teresa Nelson to the Council and specifically to the G6. Together, the G6 leads the process of identifying, monitoring, and analyzing programs, initiatives, and policies that are at the forefront of our respective organizations. Our current members are Tara Abraham, which is the co-chief executive of Axel, Roz Alfred, co-principal of ASAP Solutions, Teresa Nelson, who is the professor and chair in entrepreneurship of Simmons College, and myself, president and CEO of DMS, and Laura Yamanaka, president of Team FO. When we look at the alignment, as our chair alluded to, in our 2013 annual report, the NWBC policy recommendations identified 4 pillars of focus that are strategic in advancing the growth of women-owned businesses. Those pillars are, as previously mentioned, access to capital, access to markets, job creation and growth, and data. Our alignment at the G6 is with the NWBC recommendations, and access to capital continues to be, from our perspective, a major impediment to growth. We're hearing from our membership of the struggles, and in some cases, women-owned businesses have been turned down an average of 10 times before they have been able to find capital for their business. This causes us great concern, but at the same time, it can be an opportunity, and an opportunity for finding alternatives in financing. The general consensus of our membership are that if the current institutional financing options are not working for us, then we will need to create and support those that do. We have the numbers, and we have the power to impact the change we want to see. When we look at the actual alignment to the access to capital pillars, the recommendations from the NWBC focus on 3 areas. I mentioned earlier that the access to capital pillar and the NWBC recommendations affect how it is that the organizations are aligning to support the recommendations. Diversifying the options available for financing through credit unions and community banks continues to be a major recommendation that the G6 supports. Helping to widen the aperture of options for women by exposing them to alternatives that include crowdfunding and private equity continues to be an option that the G6 members support, encourage. And also looking closer at the evaluation methods and the credit scoring that is current to evaluate credit worthiness of women-owned businesses and to see if there are options to do this differently. So in closing, as we look at the summer conferences for the WB6, before I turn it back over to Carla, I want to note some upcoming events, and I would appreciate that you all add them to your calendar. The WeBank conference that started on Sunday, today is the last day. They had over 3,000 attendees, over 330 exhibitors, Fortune 1,000 companies, over 1,000 matchmaker sessions. The keynote speaker was Randy Zuckerberg, a powerhouse breakfast speaking lineup. Erin Kelly, who participated on behalf of the council, will share some of the amazing announcements in her presentation, which is up next. Kudos to Tara and the WeBank team for pulling off such an amazing conference. There are 2 other conferences that are coming up this summer, WIP and NABO. Please get your calendars out and make sure that you don't miss them. The WIP Annual Leadership Meeting, Leadership, Power, and Advocacy, is taking place on July 22nd through the 24th at the Hyatt Regency on Capitol Hill in Washington, D.C. It's going to be a power-packed program to include a hearing from the Senate Committee on Small Business and Women Entrepreneurship. And the NABO conference, which is the Women's Business Conference, The Power of You, it's going to be held on from September 8th through September 9th in Indianapolis. There's more information and details on the website, and I thank you all for the time this morning, and I will turn it back over to you, Madam Chair.
Thank you so much for a terrific report, Magdala. And we really hope that you all have added these dates to your calendar. These conferences are chock full of very valuable information that we think, again, can forward the agenda with respect to access to capital and access to markets for women entrepreneurs. With that, I'd like to turn it over to my colleague, Erin Kelly, who's Director of Research of NWBC. Erin?
Hi, thank you, Carla, and thank you, everyone, for joining us. Good afternoon. Just like to start with quick introductions to the NWBC's Research and Policy Committee. Unfortunately, our chair of the committee, Rose Long, was not able to join us, but she has been an excellent partner in getting me up to speed on the research portfolio underway. At our last council meeting in March, we mentioned our ongoing research projects. Today, I'd like to provide a full report of research findings for our first completed research project on access to capital. I will also provide an update on the current research portfolio, our future research topics, and a brief policy update. Our 2 ongoing projects focus on 2 topics: access to capital for high-growth women-owned businesses. This project will look at the relationship between financing structure and firm failure rates. It will also examine the influence of organizational characteristics of high-growth women-owned businesses on access to and receipt of external capital sources. The other project examines opportunities for and barriers to hiring among the self-employed and micro-businesses. This project will examine factors that affect the decision to hire employees, including demographics, family dynamics, market conditions, and industry, to determine gender disparity, if any, in this decision. These reports will both be ready in the fall. Looking ahead to next year, the NWBC is currently soliciting research on 4 topics. These topics were selected based on previous research as well as discussions between NWBC staff and the Research and Policy Committee. They are as follows. undercapitalization as a contributor to business failure for women entrepreneurs, women's participation in corporate supplier diversity programs, women's participation in incubators and accelerators, and finally, analysis of entrepreneurs' social networks. These projects will be completed around the fall of the next year. In addition to our own research, we will be working with the SBA Office of Women's Business Ownership on 3 more projects, looking at opportunities for SBA loan outreach to target women business owners, also opportunities for outreach to small business investment company, small business innovation research, and small business technology transfer outreach, and finally mapping the women's entrepreneurship ecosystem in partnership with Carnegie Mellon. Finally, we are working on 2 infographics. One will look at women in the supply chain with a focus on business firms. The other will be a guide for business owners on accessing different forms of capital, a great follow-up to today's webinar. Before we present findings from the recent quantitative research on access to capital among high-growth women-owned firms, are there any questions from the Council on the current or upcoming projects? Okay. Great. So now I'd like to share some of the results of the NWBC research project on access to capital among high-growth women-owned firms. The purpose of this research is to explore differences between men and women business owners regarding firm growth, amount, and sources of financial capital, and the relationship between these factors. Some researchers attribute women's lower levels of participation in growth-oriented entrepreneurship to gender differences in key resource inputs, including financial capital. We've been working with a great team on this research, Drs. Alicia Robb and Susan Coleman, experts in the field. The project examines financing patterns over an 8-year period among a cohort of firms that were started in 2004. The research focuses on the gender of the owner's growth trajectory and expectations, sources of capital, and the amount of capital used. Source of capital is examined from the perspective of debt versus equity and whether it is coming from the owner, insiders such as friends or family, or outside sources such as financial institutions and angel investors. A complete summary is available on the NWBC website under Issues and Research. Our key findings. We had some interesting findings from the research that we are using to inform our policy perspective. I will now highlight some of the most notable findings. Unsurprisingly, there was a relationship between the gender of the owner, firm growth, source of capital, and the amount of capital used. This interrelationship can be broken down into several specific points. Starting out on a positive note, women business owners exceeded their own expectations regarding growth, which was measured by the percent input increase in number of employees. Beyond this, women-owned firms with high growth potential exhibited certain features. For example, they were more likely to be owned by teams, to be in high-tech industries, and to be incorporated. And on average, high-growth women business owners had more previous experience with startups or in the same industry as their current business. In general, high-growth firms started with about twice as much total financial capital as other firms and relied more on outside sources, both debt and equity. However, among this high-growth group, men still use more startup capital than women to the tune of $320,000 versus $150,000 on average. The biggest difference was with regard to the amount of outsider equity, the category that includes angel investors and venture capitalists. Even among high-growth firms, there are notable differences between men and women. Male business owners had more prior industry experience and considerably more startup experience than their female counterparts. This difference could help explain the disparity between high-growth men versus women regarding total financial capital. It is not unreasonable that these 2 factors could lead to greater access to capital and, in particular, equity financing from outsiders. Additionally, high-growth women-owned firms were less likely to have intellectual property or to be in high-tech fields than their men-owned counterparts. This could reflect women's lower participation in STEM fields and the like. However, it also suggests that high-tech is not necessary for high growth. So we have some interesting findings, and we are excited to be able to foster a dialogue around women's access to capital with special focus on the high-growth segment. As mentioned earlier, we have another similar project on access to capital looking through a different lens that will be completed in the fall. Based on the report, several key recommendations and policy implications emerged. Given the relationship between a business owner's prior relevant experience, access to capital, and firm growth potential, policies should promote the early entry of women into the entrepreneurship pipeline, or at least into industries with opportunities for business ownership. Team ownership is strongly encouraged for women with intent to grow, particularly for those pursuing financing in the form of outsider equity. Because women business owners underestimate their own growth potential, women-owned firms with high growth potential should be specifically targeted by individuals and institutions that provide financial capital. It is unclear whether the desire for growth results in greater use of outsider financing or whether outsider financing, often in higher dollar amounts, facilitates growth. Regardless, obtaining outsider financing is impossible without the deliberate pursuit of it, and rapid growth is impossible without sufficient financial capital. Policies that encourage women to pursue external financing, debt, or equity should be developed. Turning now to a policy update. As Carla mentioned earlier, Senator Shaheen introduced the Women's Small Business Procurement Parity Act in 2014. Since its inception, the Women-Owned Small Business Procurement Program has been hampered by restrictions on the size and types of contracts awarded. All other major small business contracting programs have sole source authority. However, the Women-Owned Small Business Procurement Program does not. The bill fixes this inequity. The bill also moves forward a timeline of an SBA disparity study, which identifies underrepresented industries for participation in the Women-Owned Small Business Procurement Program. There are also two major developments in the House. The National Defense Authorization Act for fiscal year 2015 was passed in May. This legislation included a provision authorizing sole source contracts in the Women-Owned Small Business Procurement Program. And the Women's Procurement Program Equalization Act amends the Small Business Act, allowing sole source procurement for women-owned small businesses and economically disadvantaged women-owned small businesses under certain conditions. And we also look forward to participating at the upcoming hearing in July on these bills. Finally, I was very happy to be at the WeBank conference yesterday for the announcement of a partnership by WeBank, WeConnect International, and Walmart to design and implement a logo to be placed on goods produced by certified women-owned businesses. Walmart's research indicates that 90% of female consumers were likely or very likely to go out of their way to purchase products made by women-owned businesses. This logo will help consumers identify these products. This is big news, and congratulations to WeBank, WeConnect, and Walmart on launching this initiative. That is our update. Are there any questions for the Research and Policy Committee?
We're going to take questions after all the reports.
Okay, thank you, and I will turn it back to you, Carla.
Thanks so much, Erin, for a terrific report. And again, a lot has happened since our last quarterly meeting, and we could not be more excited. And we'll continue to keep our elbow to the wheel, and hopefully in conjunction with all of you to continue to help move the needle around these points. And please, please do support these products. It's a big deal, as Erin has said, to have to have this labeling now, and we can put our money where our mouth is by supporting these products. So with that, I will turn it over to my partner, Shelley Kapoor-Collins, to give us the Communications and Outreach Committee report.
Super. Good morning, everyone, and thank you so much, Carla. I've really enjoyed all the updates this morning, and it's always such a pleasure to be on this, be on our quarterly meeting. So, starting off with the Communications and Outreach team, as Carla mentioned, I'm chair of the team, and the Communications Outreach Committee our mission is to serve as a vehicle in executing a strategic communication plan. The Communications and Outreach Committee is comprised of 4 NWBC council members, including myself. I'm a tech entrepreneur and founder of NCN Corporation. We specialize in security and business development for the public sector. We also have Crystal Glass, and the NWBC Communications Director, who's tasked with developing the overall communications plan. Kimberly Blackwell, the Chief Executive Officer of PMM Agency, a marketing and PR firm. And finally, we have Jamie Mack, the leading environmental consultant and founder and president of 3 Squares, Inc. Moving on to, I'd like to share with you the NWBC's stance on some recent issues. We just had a policy update, and in terms of the National Women's Business Council, we serve as the government's only independent, nonpartisan voice for women entrepreneurs, and we have used our platform to insert our voice on key issues which impact women entrepreneurs. And here's a snapshot of our stance on some of those issues. The Women's Small Business Procurement Parity Act, essentially, I'm sorry, I had a... Can you guys hear me okay? I think I lost you.
Yes, Shelley, we can hear you.
Yeah. Oh, Sorry about that. I thought I lost you for a second. Essentially, the Women's Small Business Procurement Parity Act, the NWBC released a statement commending Senators Shaheen, Cantwell, and Gillibrand for making women's procurement parity a priority. The SBA is streamlining key SBA loan requirements. In NWBC's 2013 annual report, which Carla has referred to in terms of our pillars, we advocated for a new streamlined approach to accessing capital, and we're pleased that the SBA is taking action and putting forth solutions that expand on that opportunity. And the National Equal Pay Day stance, and the NWBC believes rightfully that pay equity is an important contributor to the incidence of women-owned startups and has implications for women's entrepreneurial growth at the outset. Urging financial institutions to court women-owned small businesses. Loans from financial institutions are an important source of capital, as we've been hearing, and NWBC released a statement urging the financial institutions to court women-owned small businesses. Thank you so much. Next slide. A key component of the NWBC's communication plan is outreach and collaboration. The Communications and Outreach Committee aims to leverage its existing partnerships, and we cultivate new and collaborative partnerships, as we just heard, with women organizations as it relates to communicating our message. Most recently, we've collaborated with Startup Nation to partner on a Mother's Day initiative to highlight leading moms in business, mompreneurs, which is pretty cool. We're participating in Walker's Legacy Summer Soiree for Women Leaders, and we're also participating in a Women's Business Roundtable during this year's U.S. Black Chambers Annual Conference. In terms of our communications initiatives and social media campaigns, the Communications and Outreach Committee has executed various communications initiatives with a focus on using social media as our platform to amplify our voice and to highlight the great strides that women entrepreneurs are making. Our most recent social media campaign includes using hashtags, as I just mentioned, mompreneurs, which was a collaborative effort with Startup Nation to showcase leading moms in business in honors of Mother's Day. And then, of course, we have the hashtag National Small Biz Week, in which we collaborate with the SBA during this year's National Small Business Week to highlight the economic impact that we as small women-owned businesses make. And then our ongoing hashtag is Access to Capital, which we use to continue to draw attention to the challenges women face in obtaining capital. And just to share with you here some recent highlights of press that we've had between the Huffington Post, Forbes, and where Amanda Brown was highlighted as well. And we're excited about our recent press and headlines. More recently, NWBC Chair Carla Harris was featured in Huffington Post Women in Business Q&A series. Carla, I really enjoyed that. And Huffington Post also covered the NWBC's efforts during the National Small Business Week. A really great article that's been mentioned that ran in Forbes a few days ago, which I just mentioned, profiled the NWBC's new executive director, Amanda Brown, and it illuminated our efforts in advancing women entrepreneurs. If you haven't had the article yet, I highly encourage you to read it. And you can best find the article by just doing a simple Google search for the title, Champion for Women Entrepreneurs, Realigned for the Times. Finally, our media relations and interaction with press publications has allowed us high visibility in publications that target women entrepreneurs, such as Huffington Post Women, Project Eve, Today's Innovation Women, Women Entrepreneurs, Blog Talk Radio, and Forbes, just to name a few. If there's anyone who has an interest in media partnerships and our event collaborations, please do feel free to contact the NWBC Communications Director, Crystal Glass, via email at crystal.glass@nwbc.gov or by phone. I think the information is up at 202-205-6829. And with that, I thank you so much for your time. And on behalf of the Communications and Outreach Committee, we look forward to hearing from you. And now I'm pleased to pass it back to Amanda Brown, our fabulous Executive Director.
Thank you, Shelley. I am going to make an executive decision in the interest of time, and if folks have questions about any of the committee reports, you can send them into the email. You all, for the RSVP confirmations, have Crystal Glass's email, so feel free to send questions there, and we will get you the answers. You can also tweet us at NWBC, and I'm going to give it back to Carla to move us into the panel.
Okay, thank you, Amanda. Now for the highlight of today's webinar, the panel on innovative strategies to raise capital. And if you're like me, you're on the edge of your seat awaiting what we are about to receive, the wealth of information that we're about to receive from three very influential women in the funding community who are all a part of these innovative strategies that we've been alluding to and that we feel strongly that we as women entrepreneurs need to embrace, again, in order to move the needle on the way we start our businesses and, frankly, the sustainability of our businesses. So let's start with Jane. Jane is the Director of Strategic Partnerships at Plum Alley, and she is one of America's most respected small business management experts. She's the author of 4 books, including her latest, 201 Great Ideas for Your Small Business, which is published by Bloomberg Wiley. As I mentioned, she's now serving as the Director of Strategic Partnerships for Plum Alley. And for those of you who don't know, Plum Alley is a rewards-based crowdfunding company based in New York City. It raises money for women's projects, businesses, and charitable causes. And its mission is to help women across America and soon around the world to tap into the power of crowdfunding. And with that, I give you Jane Applegate.
Thank you, Carla. Welcome, everyone. We're thrilled you're spending some time with us talking about how to move the needle and get more capital into the hands of women. Plum Alley, as you said, is it's a relatively new company, started a couple of years ago by Deborah Jackson, who's a former Goldman Sachs investment banker, who had been making personal investments, angel investments in a variety of women-owned companies and just really wanted to accelerate the impact that her personal path is going to have. And so basically we are a rewards-based crowdfunding company, and we feel that in serving women exclusively, we can tap into some strengths that women all share, which is to be collaborative, to be very supportive of a strong community, and to know how to leverage our network. So what we do is work very personally and comprehensively with women who come to us. We actually have an application process. So Plum Alley is what's called a curated platform. Our competitors obviously are much bigger. You can wake up in the middle of the night and launch a project on your own. We feel that it's real important for us to work with you and vet your project and make sure that you have all the elements for success. We just know that crowdfunding is, gaining much momentum around the world. There's a new report that came out that said every hour $57,000 are put into some sort of crowdfunding campaign somewhere in the world. There's almost 1,000 new projects being launched globally every day. So we feel like we're a niche player in the crowdfunding market, but we are staffing up, expanding, and have had an incredible record of success for the women that we've worked with. In fact, our success rate is closer to 74% compared with our competitors who are sort of hovering in the 30 to 44% range. And we have also decided to focus on kind of 3 silos of projects. We are interested in anything that will help a woman launch a business. So it can be specifically to grow or start a business or to test a product. We find that crowdfunding is incredibly effective to do proof of concept. So, for instance, one of our successful project creators came up with a new form of a water, a nutrient-packed water. She tested it through a campaign she ran on Plum Alley. She raised about $30,000. And the response to her new product was so strong that she ended up getting a distribution contract with Whole Foods. So that's a perfect example of proof of concept. We're also very interested in working with women who are looking to raise money for their nonprofit causes of any type because we feel like crowdfunding is an ideal way to raise money for various charities and philanthropic projects. And then the third area, which is sort of my personal passion, is we're going to be focusing on arts and entertainment and mobile apps. I'm a film and television producer by trade, and there's just so many fabulous women with creative ideas, and we're always struggling to get our content and our new television shows and feature films and documentaries out there. So I'm very excited to be heading up that area of the company and focusing on raising money for women in the arts and entertainment, and also a lot of emphasis on mobile technology, which is also some background that Deborah Jackson has. So that's what we're doing. We're, as I said, expanding, growing, and our website is plumalley.co, and we're also looking to rebrand and add some more features and some amazing new, we have some plans for expansion in September that are a bit under wraps at the moment, but will be all announced in the next couple of months.
Well, thank you so much, Jane. We already have a number of questions coming in through Twitter, so get ready for when we finish the other two speakers.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. It is my privilege to introduce to you Loretta McCarthy, who is the managing partner for the Angel Network at Golden Seeds. And for those of you who don't know, Golden Seeds is an investor consortium that invests in early-stage women-led companies. It's been around for 10 years, and in those 10 years, they have invested $63 million in 61 companies. Loretta manages a nationwide network of over 300 members with chapters in New York, Boston, Silicon Valley, and Texas. And she's an active participant in screening companies, completing due diligence, and mentoring entrepreneurs. Formerly, she was Executive Vice President and Chief Marketing Officer at Oppenheimer Funds, which is a leading investment management firm. And with that, I give you Loretta McCarthy.
Carla, thank you. It's wonderful to be here today. I was especially struck by a comment that Magdala made at a few minutes ago, where she said if current funding options aren't working for women, we'll create ones that do, which made me think that's as good a description as I've ever heard of what we've tried to do at Golden Seeds. So I'm happy to tell you a bit about our journey. Golden Seeds is an investment organization that is in its 10th year, as Carla said. We are angel investors, and we invest solely in women-led companies. And by that we mean that we consider any companies that have at least one woman in a leadership position and who has also a reasonable equity stake in the company. Women entrepreneurs are doing, as many of you know, utterly amazing things all over the country and, in fact, all over the world. At Golden Seeds, our goal is to create and offer an environment in which these companies will be seriously considered and respectfully considered for funding. And they also, an environment and also in which they will receive substantial feedback and support along the way, and hopefully right up to the point at which they exit. We are hoping that we will increase the number of women entrepreneurs who seek funding. We believe we have already played a substantial role in that, but only one organization can only do so much, but we are seeing real progress. The data that we are aware of is that about 16% of companies that seek funding are led by women, but we know that women are actually starting businesses at a much higher rate. I actually believe that 16% number that I just mentioned is from 2012, and of course crowdfunding has come along since then. So hopefully there is a different and higher number now, but we still know that women are seeking funding at a lower rate than men. What is interesting to me, and I am thrilled about this, is that when women do seek funding, we also know that they get funding at a higher rate than men. So one of our challenges here is creating conditions in which women entrepreneurs will go seek funding. At Golden Seeds, we are seeking to prove the investment thesis that women-led businesses can produce results for investors that are as good or better than other companies. We also believe that women-led businesses will ultimately, most likely, produce companies that are gender diverse. And as many of you know, it is now well documented that gender diverse teams produce better financial results. So at Golden Seeds, we start that process by ensuring that at least one woman is leading the company. As Carla mentioned, in our 10 years, we've invested $63 million in 61 companies. We have active chapters at Golden Seeds in New York, Boston, Silicon Valley, and Dallas. We take an equity position in the companies. Since our founding, we've evaluated over 2,500 companies, and we will consider all industry sectors, and the companies can be based anywhere in the U.S. So at Golden Seeds, we say that we are agnostic about industry sectors, we are agnostic about geography, but we are not agnostic about women. We do this work through our investor network of over 300 women and quite a few good men who are also members and investors with Golden Seeds. These people meet, mentor, evaluate, invest, and coach companies with the goal of reaching successful exits. Companies that are successful in raising capital at Golden Seeds often have these three things in common. Number one, they have a great leader or a great team, preferably more than one person, that inspires us to back them and their idea. So in the area of talking about the team or the leader, we want to see uncommon vision, determination, perseverance, and the ability to lead through ups and downs, and there are always ups and downs. We want to be confident that the team can attract great talent. We know you can't do it alone, and you can't get to a great exit on your own. So all great companies start with a leader that inspire others to join them. We also value the ability to listen to the marketplace and to their advisors and to each other. Number two, companies that are successful with Golden Seeds nearly always come to us with a great idea that is also potentially a big idea. For outside investors to become involved, they will want to see a path for the opportunity to become large and with the possibility of a successful exit. Remember that angel investors are looking for a return on their investment, and their goal will often be articulated as something like they would like to achieve a 10 times return in 5 to 7 years. That's not always how it plays out, but those are numbers that are often mentioned. And number three, we like to see companies that have already made some progress. So we invest at early stages. We're definitely angel investors. But we want to see something that shows an indication of progress, such as some revenue, some customers, or a completed or nearly complete product, some proof that the market demands or wants this product or service, or other evidence of progress toward the goal of getting to the marketplace. So the way to seek funding at Golden Seeds is to apply on our website, goldenseeds.com. What I will say is that one of the things that is slightly unusual at Golden Seeds is that we do try to meet most companies that apply to us. Our current percentage is that we do meet about 75% of companies that apply in person. We also offer something called office hours for companies that are not quite ready for applying, but would like to have a brief conversation with active angel investors, and that is all described on our website as well. So with that, I will close, and thank you for having me today.
Thank you so much, Loretta. That was very, very helpful, and questions are coming in for you as well. And with that, I'll move to our last speaker, Kathryn Petralia. Kathryn is co-founder and CEO of Kabbage. Again, for those of you who don't know, Kabbage provides lines of credit to small businesses and has deployed more than $300 million since 2012. Kabbage's automated lending platform can take a customer through the loan application process in less than 10 minutes and deliver instant access to funds. Kathryn has spent the last 2 decades in technology and financial services and has had 4 successful startups. And with that, I give you Kathryn Petralia.
Thank you so much. It's really a pleasure to be here. I know we may be running behind, so I'll try to be quick. Kabbage we started in 2009. We launched in 2011, and we now serve more than 25,000 businesses. As Carla mentioned, we put out $300 million since we launched, and that'll be $500 million by the end of the year. In order to get to this point, we've raised $106 million in equity in 4 institutional rounds, so access to capital is certainly a topic with which I'm familiar. Kabbage is different for a few reasons. First of all, we're fully automated. As you've already heard, our customers spend less than 10 minutes completing the application, and our decisions are instant, which is really important for busy business owners who don't have time to provide lengthy, complex financial statements and complete a traditional bank's underwriting process. Secondly, we rely on alternative data. So as a result, we say yes to more businesses and get capital in their hands quickly. We work with accounting software, merchant processors, shippers, marketplaces, social media, and even data in your financial accounts to ensure that we're able to serve more businesses and use the data that's most relevant to the business. Kabbage believes businesses are more than a credit score. Lastly, the big difference is that we provide a line of credit. Most alternative lenders provide access to cash at a single point in time. So for business owners who are looking to manage cash flow, this is really important, and it means that you can use the capital when you need it and not pay fees on funds you don't need. We provide lines, access to lines from $2,000 to $100,000. It's really difficult for banks to make loans less than a couple $100,000 because it costs them more to originate the loans than they make in fees, largely because they lack the tools and the technology to efficiently underwrite and onboard small business borrowers. An ideal Kabbage customer has been in business for 6 months, uses a business checking account or accepts credit cards, and is generating business income. We're not looking for a personal guarantee like a lot of banks do, and while we do use credit bureau information to verify identity, we understand that many business owners don't have perfect credit, so we rely on other data to measure business performance. While today we can serve all types of businesses, whether you're a restaurant or a retailer or a service provider, we actually got our start serving small businesses selling merchandise on eBay, which is kind of a niche, but we were surprised to discover how many women business owners we found on eBay. It made sense after a while, though, because we could see that it was something that women who were also managing their families could do from home. So in that way, we realized that our product was ideal for women-owned businesses because we could save them time, start with really small lines, and grow with the business, while addressing business types that were typically underserved by traditional banks. And today, women represent nearly half of our 25,000 active customers, and we're really excited about continuing to serve that population. Thanks.
Okay. Thank you so much, Kathryn. Hello, can you hear me?
We can.
Okay. All righty. Well, I want to get kicked off with the first question, and the first one is to Kathryn. Can you talk a little bit about the process? You said you've raised over $100 million in 4 rounds. Can you talk a little bit about what that process was like is the first question. Second question, Kathryn, can you talk about, on average, what is the size of the lines of credit that Kabbage offers?
Sure thing. The process was pretty grueling, I have to tell you. Raising money for a financial services company in 2009 was not the easiest thing. I think what we learned, a couple things that I think are really important, is that, you know, you really have to have some thick skin because a lot of folks are going to say no. You know, but most importantly, we learned to be ourselves. Our investors weren't investing in our idea. They were really investing in our founders and our team. And so as we began to loosen up, we realized that people were more interested in talking to us. And then we got another meeting and another meeting. You know, secondly, we learned to use our network. So every potential investor we met knew more investors. And they always want to help because they're probably going to tell you no, and it makes them feel better to do something nice. And lastly, you know, back to the thick skin, not to be discouraged by a no, we have 15 institutional investors. And for everyone who said yes, probably at least 10 of them said no, especially early on. So a little bit of visibility into that process, but it's certainly taken a long time. And as to our lines today, we provide between $2,000 and $100,000, and that's all in a fully automated environment.
Wow. I'm hoping you can hear me. This is Kim Blackwell, and just to kind of piggyback there, Kathryn, you know, looking at some of the challenges and hurdles that are often met in that journey of accessing capital, but also to some of the solutions and the great work that you all are doing. What have you found to be good counsel and our next steps for kind of changing the tide to transform that setback of a no into a launch moving forward? You know, a lot of it is around the psyche and so forth, but I was just wondering if there were any best practices and or points of incidence that you could share with this group just from a point of encouragement.
Sure, of course, and I guess it's different depending on whether you're looking for, a small business loan or if you're looking for equity. I think in either case, the best thing is really what we found over time is just to be buttoned up. I mean, not to go overboard, but, have some financials, have an idea of where you want to go. Just from our perspective, looking at customers who are using, for example, accounting software to run their business are better to work with than those who aren't. They're just a little more organized. And this is kind of a strange one, but even our customers who use social media like Facebook and Twitter to communicate with their customers are 20% less likely to be delinquent than those who aren't because they're engaged and they're running their business. So, I mean, just keeping your eye on the ball, knowing your metrics, and using some professional, not expensive, but professional tools, I think those are all really important, and it makes it seem like a serious concern.
Hi there. Thank you. Going back to the Kabbage organization, would you be willing to share some of the alternative data that you guys rely on?
Sure, of course, I'd be happy to. And this is all on our website too, so it's not a big secret or anything either, but I'm happy to go into it a little bit more. I think we're looking for ways that we can measure actual business performance. We look in folks' checking accounts to understand and sort of build a cash flow model so that you don't have to do it yourself. We look at accounting data if you're using QuickBooks or Xero or something like that, or Sage, so that we can understand your balance sheet. And not all these are required, by the way. There are lots of options. Every customer looks very different. So what happens is the customer lands on our site, and then they start granting us access to third-party data sources. We don't get the credentials. We just get the data. And the reason we can provide a line of credit is because we stay connected to the data, so we can continually monitor our customers, and we can provide them with better terms or more capital as their business grows. As I mentioned, we look at social data to understand how our customers are interacting with their customers. If you accept credit cards, we look at payment processing data. We actually have a really unique arrangement with UPS that we can make a primary underwriting decision based only on shipping data, based on, strange things like how many packages or the size or the consistency of the packages or the weight or the destination. So we've got a pretty complicated model that takes into account all these various data sources and understand based on the unique data that a customer has how their business is performing.
Thank you for sharing.
My pleasure. Thank you for asking.
Okay, and at this point, it looks like we do have another question. Going now to Vanessa.
Hello? Hello?
Yes, we can hear you, Vanessa.
Oh, okay, wonderful. My question was, I'm a new business owner. I've just started a business in the power transformer industry, and the basis of my business would be to contract with the federal government as a EDWAS and a veteran-owned small business. What I wanted to know is, based on the set-aside because of my business structure, would I be able to gain access to the capital based on the fact that there are up to from $100,000 to millions of dollars in contracts available to me by the government? Is that something that I could use as collateral, so to speak, in order to qualify for funding?
Well, this is Kathryn from Kabbage, and I don't mean to jump in. I know that the SBA has a special program for folks who are working with the government, and they spend a lot of time making that happen. And there are companies that also will look at invoices or, and what we would do is we'd look, let's say that you had payments for, a couple of months from the government. We could, look forward to be aware that those payments would be coming in the future, which is kind of how we work. But there's probably access to less expensive capital from the SBA that you could get, not to send business away from myself. And there are probably other folks in the panel who have more expertise in this area than I do.
Now, in regards to the amount of money that comes in from the government, once again, at this time, I don't even have the capital to get the equipment and things in order to get this business for myself, so I'm set up to JV with other power transformer businesses in order to actually bid for those contracts. So I'm in the process of trying to find a way to gain that capital for myself so that I no longer have to JV with other businesses.
Do you already have the invoices? Do you already know that the funds are coming in?
Well, like as of right now, I've already put in a bid for a job, and that job, based on JVing with another company that's already done that type of work, it's about an $80,000 job, and it takes a week to complete. So because I'm JVing with this company, I have to share the profit with that company, which is fine because it sets me up to be able to gain the equipment that I need in order to do the business for myself.
There are companies that do something called factoring, where they will actually look at invoices or payables that are owed to you, and they'll advance you funds on those payables or accounts receivable when they can see and verify the invoice. There are tons of companies that do that. I don't know the specific name, but you're welcome to find me on LinkedIn, and I can point you in the right direction if you have a valid invoice that they can confirm.
Now, does the invoice have to, because I'm JVing with another company and that business is coming through me as a veteran-owned small business and EDWAS, would I be able to use their invoices from the jobs that they've done through me as well?
Well, you have two choices. You could work with them to use their invoices, or you could actually send them an invoice and then have that confirmed by the factor, so that they know that the funds are coming to you directly.
And I'm happy. We should continue this conversation, Vanessa, and figure out how to get the rest of your questions answered. I do, since in the interest of time, want to help us move through the rest of the questions. And I know we have one from a fellow council member, Jamie. I'm just going to go ahead and read it from her because she typed it into the line. So what advice, and this is, I think, just a general question for all of our panelists today, what advice do you have for women entrepreneurs seeking funding during the startup stage or the seed stage?
Hi, this is Jay, and I can weigh in a couple of quick thoughts.
Great.
I think it's really important from the beginning to make sure that all your materials, your proposals, everything is just first class. When you are running a small business, you are your business, and everything that you put out there for review or for public consumption should be incredibly, well designed, well put together, no typos. Just really make sure that from the beginning you're making a strong presentation. And also, I would say just do whatever you can to build up your confidence, because based on our research at Plum Alley and all my years of reporting on the women's business market, women tend to not feel confident in asking for what they need in terms of money. And I think that's really critical to this conversation. Always, literally make a good case for what the amount you really, really need, and then add a percentage on top of that and just go for a bigger number.
Thank you. Loretta, is that something you would add to that, especially as it relates to getting equity funding?
Yes, I would certainly agree that it is critically important to really know your numbers. Remember that when you're seeking equity funding, you're seeking it often from people who are pulling out a checkbook and writing a personal check. And they really want to be confident that the that the entrepreneurs are really on top of their numbers, knowing that nothing ever turns out exactly as you project at the beginning, but it's really, really important to project that you're someone who will pay attention to the numbers.
And how important is it for you to differentiate yourself from other people? One of the things that I know the public market cares a lot about is why you and why now. How important is that if you're raising private funding?
Why you as you and your business idea?
Yeah, meaning why should I invest in your business, and why should I make this investment now?
So I think both of those things are really relevant, and it often starts with what is the merit of your business idea, and is this marketplace, angel investors make individual decisions for the most part, so they are frequently looking for an assessment of whether the idea is unique, whether the entrepreneur is solving a problem of some kind, or has a marketplace that will gravitate toward this idea. So we will often at Golden Seed say that we like to see businesses that are in a marketplace that have a total size of $500 million or higher. But that is really our way of saying that even if a company only has a small percentage of that marketplace, they still can build a really big business, because angels will want to see businesses that can grow to a really good size. I cannot stress enough the importance of the entrepreneur presenting herself with confidence, passion, vision, and in a convincing way that will ensure that the investors who are considering an investment will seriously consider this based on the merits of what this entrepreneur is presenting. Every experienced angel investor in the world knows that the business plans change, and that what is presented to us on day one is probably not going to be exactly the same as what is happening in that company in year 2 or year 3. But the one constant should be the entrepreneur herself or the team itself. So it is usually the kind of conversation that happens after meetings is the combination of how good is this idea, how big is it, and also what do you think of the team? Can I back this person? Can I get enthusiastic about writing a personal check to this team?
Right. And this is Dana again. A quick thing, one thing that we do at Plum Alley with the proof of concept testing is if you have attracted a base of fans and followers and supporters who have put several $1,000s into your project or your product and for pre-orders, it's a wonderful way to attract angel investment. Because you've not only promoted your product, but you've proven that there's a market for it. So I think they kind of work really well hand in hand to test rewards-based crowdfunding and then, seek angel investment after you've shown what a great success I've had.
Yeah, absolutely.
Excellent. And Jen, can you just say again, define rewards-based crowdfunding?
Yes, Carla. There are 2 forms of crowdfunding now in the world, and I'm sure there's more to come. Basically, the 2 concepts are rewards-based, which is what Plum Alley offers, and that is that people who support your product or your projects basically make a contribution. There is no equity involved. They don't own a share of your company. They have no say or control in your operations. They often are given a thank you gift, which is kind of commensurate with the amount of money they put in. Like, for instance, I'm going to be raising post-production money for a film that I'm producing on Plum Alley. The rewards for helping me with my film in the fall will be tickets to a screening or a meeting with the cast and crew. So it's just something, it's a perk. It's a fun benefit, or could possibly be a pre-order for, we have a dress designer, for instance, who did a campaign all around a new blouse design, and the people who contributed to her campaign received the blouse. So that's rewards-based crowdfunding. On the equity side, it's literally there's people who don't know you who, through different exchanges, there's lots going on the equity side. It's also going to be, it's under lots of regulations being reviewed by the Securities and Exchange Commission. It's a little more complicated, but it's also thrilling that people who don't know you can take equity in your company. But that's a whole different pathway for equity.
Yep. Thank you.
Thank you again, because we had a couple of the questions coming in from Twitter, and this is one from @CandiceM.Hughes too, that women-led businesses are turned down an average of 8 times, so having a conversation about how to prepare for those conversations is really helpful.
Amanda, I think we have time for 2 more questions.
We do.
To our surprise guest. Any other questions that have come through Twitter that are different than the ones we've been talking about?
Yeah, I'm going to pull one from Allison Marshall, who says, my company, Grasshopper, is creating an online plan your business tool and platform for entrepreneurs. Considering the positive increase in new women entrepreneurs, we shall also provide extra resources on funding for women. This is not a question. She's excited to be learning about Plum Alley, Golden Seeds, and Kabbage, so no takers. I'm sure she'll be following up with all of you. Another question that we have, and Colin, feel free if there are questions on the phone as well. Another one that we wanted to ask was just, and this again goes to everyone, but what if you kind of could share some words of advice on how we could actually begin to push the needle on increasing women business owners' access to capital. So all of you have done have made tremendous opportunities and made them available to the women entrepreneurs, but if there were other things that we might start thinking about, it would be great to hear your thoughts on that from a structural perspective.
Well, this is Jane. I can start. One thing that Deborah Jackson and I advocate is that women who are listening to this or going to read about it later, think about investing in a female-owned firm. Not only buy their products, but make an investment, support their project through crowdfunding, make an angel investment, put your money where your mouth is. Really just, don't stay on the sidelines. Even if you only have $1,000 that you can set aside, pick a company that you believe in and invest in the woman-owned company.
This is Loretta. I'll just jump in and say that, first of all, I think calls like this and organizations such as this are extremely helpful, giving increased numbers of women to a point where they have the determination and the aptitude to apply for funding or seek funding and be successful. Because what we really need are more women. We know women are starting businesses at a very high rate. We need more women who are really seeking funding. So that's a dilemma. Why is it that more women aren't seeking funding? And every year there are more and more opportunities for funding, and there are also really wonderful educational opportunities because I think a lot of this is influenced by the fact that they just may not know how to navigate the choices. So I applaud organizations like Springboard, ASTIA, the Kauffman Foundation, and many others that have been mentioned on this call that are trying to bring women up the learning curve in terms of how to navigate the funding options. And I think that in terms of what we can do to move the needle, I think all of us can play a role in educating and encouraging.
Well, thank you so much. And let me say thank you to our three amazing panelists, and we'll keep this conversation going at NWBC. So if you have other questions, we're happy to connect the dots. So thank you again to Jane Applegate, Loretta McCarthy, and Kathryn Petralia. We really appreciate your offering women entrepreneurs and interested supporters all of your insight. And before I let you go, we have another special treat for you. Tchen, the Assistant to the President and Chief of Staff to the First Lady and Executive Director of the White House Council on Women and Girls, has joined us. And as many of you know, the White House hosted a summit on working families on Monday, and we are very lucky to have Tina on the call to give us a recap of the summit and highlight the President's plans for expanding economic opportunities to women and working families. Welcome, Tina, and the floor is yours.
Oh, well, thank you, Carla. Thank you so much for having me on this call. Thank you for your leadership of the National Women's Business Council. We are so grateful to that and to Amanda, to everyone at the council. So thank you all, and thank you all for being on this call. As Carla said, we were thrilled on Monday to have the first ever White House Summit on in Washington, D.C. It was a gathering of business leaders, advocates, workers, economists and academics, working moms and dads, all who care about this issue, both to hear not just the President, but also the First Lady and the Vice President, Dr. Biden. It's one of the few occasions we've had all four principals, come to a single event. That just should tell you how important we view this issue of helping working families. And we unveiled several new reports from the Council of Economic Advisors, including, 9 new facts about American families and work, which I would commend to everybody. It's really short, but lays out, how our 21st century workforce has changed. The fact that, half of the workforce is now women, that 60% of children now live in families where all the parents work because they're either in a, family where both parents are working or they're in a single-headed household where the parent is working. How, women, contribute now 44% of household income. 40%, are, the main breadwinner in the family. And that men increasingly, men are also, care about these issues and are, the number of men who, the time men have spent, men spend and report spending with their families has tripled, in the last decade. And so, this is where our what our workforce looks like, the challenges they're facing, not just in raising small children, but in caring for elderly parents and caring for, other sick family members, wounded warriors in their family, when they themselves get sick, and that we need to start investing in 21st century workforces that meet those challenges of our workforce. Because if we don't, what the President laid out is not only is this an issue for working families who keep struggling with these issues every day around the kitchen table, it's not good for businesses because businesses that invest in flexible work arrangements and paid leave and sick leave and career ladders for their employees actually do better. And one of the reports from CEA on workplace flexibility lays out, the current research on firms that actually have a better bottom line when they have these kinds of because they have less turnover, they have less absenteeism, they have more focused workforce. They're, eliminating the costs of training new staff. They're eliminating the costs of unhappy workers that contribute to theft or lawsuits. So that's good for business, but it's also good for our economy. As he said, we are the only developed country in the world that does not have paid maternity. And that's not a sustainable place to be if we're going to compete globally. Women's labor force participation in the U.S., while it grew, and really $2 trillion worth of growth since the 1970s has been to women's increased labor force participation. But in the last several years, it's leveled off as compared to other developed countries in the world. So if we want to keep continuing to grow our economy, we need to make sure that those women are attached to the labor force and are succeeding. We cannot afford to leave half of our talent, out of the workforce. So the president, announced several things. He signed a presidential memorandum that makes the federal workforce, pay attention to these issues even more, and really charged all of our government agencies to use our existing authorities around flexible work arrangements to the maximum extent possible. And we're going to be measuring that and self-reporting on that publicly. He announced support for the Pregnant Workers Fairness Act, that pregnant women who currently sometimes are at risk of losing their job if they don't get a reasonable accommodation, can get that. And came out strongly for paid leave, for increased child care, we announced a $25 million invest by Department of Labor in increased child care for folks who are going through training programs there. But then when we followed up with that, there was tremendous energy that came out of that day on Monday. Yesterday, I'm really pleased to say, immediately thereafter, yesterday morning, Carla was there, as was, Laura Yamanaka, from the council. We convened a roundtable in the Roosevelt Room here in the White House with Val Jarrett and myself of small businesses, because we know that small businesses have unique challenges, and a lot of women start small businesses in order to get that flexibility. But then there are challenges when you have a smaller employee base on how do you implement these kinds of policies. It was a great group of small businesses, both women-owned and male-owned, who are championing new ways of addressing these issues. We had a restaurant owner who's got a flexible, who's got a scheduling process where all of their workers, know what the schedules are, and they have an app, and if somebody needs to reschedule for a sick child, they put that out to all their workers. She said she hasn't touched a schedule in 10 years, and all her workers, are able to access that. We've had other kinds of innovative best practices that came out. One of the things we want to do both for small businesses and for big businesses, is keep the momentum going by highlighting best practices of companies that are doing the right thing. I think there's a working group that's going to start up among, CEOs to continue to do that peer-to-peer to really promote these issues, because we know smart businesses are going to do this, and actually getting businesses to voluntarily step up, learn how to do, these smart practices and then implement them will be the fastest way that we will be able to get these initiatives throughout the economy. We would welcome suggestions that you, those of you who are business owners may have, those of you who are workers may have. WorkingFamilySummit.org, so all one word, WorkingFamilySummit.org. is the website for the summit that's still up and running and taking suggestions. And you can also find out more about the summit there, or you can find out more about the summit at whitehouse.org, whitehouse.gov, whitehouse.gov, which is our White House website. It's got information on the summit. It's also got information on the girls. So again, I want to thank Carla for her leadership. I want to thank the administrator, the SBA, for her leadership. And we would love to continue to work with the council as we keep promoting these issues. Thanks a lot, Carla.
Thank you so much, Tina. We really appreciate your jumping on and giving us that amazing summary. And you can count on us to be supportive around this issue, because obviously it's germane to the success of women entrepreneurs. And we're so glad to see the president take this issue on. And as I said, looking forward to staying in the loop. Also, on behalf of my fellow council member, Laura Yamanaka, and me, thank you for including us in the conversation yesterday on workplace flexibility. So today's presentation proved to be insightful and very informative, and I hope that everyone is walking away feeling inspired and equipped to further enhance their business and entrepreneurial efforts, and that each listener has received key insights and key contacts on innovative ways to raise capital. So thank you once again to all of our amazing panelists, Jane, Loretta, and Kathryn, and to all my fellow council members and staff who presented today. Please be on the lookout for our next quarterly meeting. You can certainly follow us on Facebook and on Twitter at NWBC, and please look at www.nwbc.gov for further updates. And this meeting is officially adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, Carla.